I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Wednesday, July 22nd. News headlines from Arkansas. The Big Swill, that was the name I gave to the outcome of the laughingly called ethics amendment that voters passed in 2014. It raised legislative pay, it let them serve longer in the legislature, and it also gave them all kinds of loopholes to get around a supposed prohibition on free food and drinks from the lobbyists. It happened every day during the session. Well, they added a new little wrinkle during the last legislative session that allowed them to take free food and drinks when they go to regional and national conferences. This week, 11 legislators at least are in San Diego for the American Legislative Exchange Council. That's a conservative, Coke-backed group that puts out cookie-cutter legislation for conservative legislators that they then pass in the legislatures. It includes things like anti-pollution controls and that sort of thing. Well, guess what? Friday night in the Gaslamp District in San Diego, 4 lobbyists, the Mullenix Group, Robbie Wills, who lobbies for the gambling industry, cable TV lobbyists, and Gilbert Baker, of all people, are going to throw a big steak dinner at a fancy steakhouse for Arkansas legislators who are at this convention. It's all legal. It's all in the name of good ethics, don't you see? Why anybody would be at a scene at a dinner with Gilbert Baker is beyond me. He's wound up in this big scandal over campaign contributions to Mike Maggio, which Mike Maggio said led to him fixing a civil case against a nursing home operator. Gilbert Baker hadn't been charged, but he's deeply enmeshed in funneling money to Mike Maggio, to Rhonda Wood on the state Supreme Court, to the tort reform effort, to a bunch of other political candidates. I don't think I'd sit down and have dinner with Gilbert Baker if I wanted to keep my skirts clean, but I'm not an Arkansas legislator. Elsewhere, the Little Rock police today arrested a parolee as a suspect in 13 robberies over the weekend. 8 of them occurred Saturday night within a 3-block area along Main Street, some from people that were returning to an after party for the Jefferson Jackson Day dinner. Glad that the police work found this guy. It was found thanks to photographs being circulated on Twitter. This man also abducted a guy and forced him to take money out of ATM machines. The interesting thing is none of the 8 robberies that occurred Saturday night were on the Little Rock Police's report of weekend crime events. The police scanner is no longer open to the public. It was as if these crimes didn't even happen. One of the victims happened to call me and tell me about it, which is how I knew about it. These multiple crimes, by the way, were reported as a single robbery, multiple people in one event, not multiple robberies. Maybe that's why our crime statistics are going down in Little Rock. Elsewhere, new national polling shows some drop in support for Hillary Clinton in important swing states. Her unfavorable ratings are rising. The campaign against her by Republicans is clearly having some effect. Larry Jegley, the Pulaski County prosecutor, responding to some rumors that he might run for Supreme Court or might retire, says no, he's going to run again for another term. He's been a strong prosecutor. I have heard word of a judge in Texarkana, a former prosecutor, Carlton Jones, who might make a race for Supreme Court in that race in which so far Sean Womack, a Republican from Mountain Home, is the only announced candidate for a Supreme Court seat that's going to be vacant because of retirement. Womack has a bad record, says he's not qualified in criminal law, and furthermore has said a number of things about his bias against gay people. An opponent for him would be a good thing. It turned up this week of yet another unlikely supporter of those who are trying to fight the Fayetteville Civil Rights Ordinance. They've got a preacher on their website who was caught up in controversy in Texas for abusing a child who went to a so-called Christian boot camp he operated. This follows the serial rapist who was used to oppose the Eureka Springs Civil Rights Ordinance, and of course the famous Duggar family, which previously opposed the Fayetteville Civil Rights Ordinance, worried about bathrooms when they had some problems of their own at home to worry about. Other news, the KKK apparently is planning a rally in Monticello this weekend. Harry Reid, the U.S. Senator from Nevada, talked about the Arkansas Times on the floor of the Senate yesterday, mentioned our article criticizing Tom Cotton for blocking 5 nominations to the Federal Court of Claims. This is preventing justice from being done. Tom Cotton has political connections to a law firm whose interest it is to control who sits on the Court of Claims. There could be something more there than efficiency to Tom Cotton's objection to this. And finally, I'd recommend for your reading something I've cited on the Arkansas blog. Interesting story in the Washington Post about how Walton and Walmart money has urbanized Bentonville. That is, brought high-end restaurants, hotels, and other attractions, the kind of things you need to attract smart young people to go to work in high-up technology and other jobs in the corporate headquarters. I observed that one thing they haven't urbanized in Bentonville are the politics. It's a very conservative place. You won't find any of the kind of progressive legislators in that area that you typically find in America's big cities. Perhaps that's still to come. We can hope. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.